survive through housing, academic, and all kinds. If there's any question, any issues with clubs facing, I should be the one advocating for them to administration. I am also there to get student input and help other executives in their advocacy work. If president wants to advocate for advocacy, I should be the one, whether how to start an RCO, through life in youth.
For your response?
How would you address it as internal vice president?
I think the biggest issue is the disconnect between students, resource centers, ASUCI. What is being done, UCI has all the resources. We have the International Center giving out OPT, STEM-ish webinars all the time. We have the Dream Center working on webinars to help undocumented students. We have the Transfer Student Center working with transfer students. But students don't know. Students are not aware of them. So it is our job to make sure that we connect the students with those resources. And engaging students more, bring the resources to them instead of them finding what is going on, where to find them, anything else.
Of the internal vice president. The internal vice president serves as the primary liaison to our campus resource center, such as those under student affairs. How would you connect students to the important resources offered by these units?
So what I have planned is making sure we collaborate with resource centers. For example, if we are having an event for transfer students, we have the transfer center work with us. So there is administration present in those places and students can connect with the administration. They can hold them accountable. They can tell them what they need directly. I am well aware there are going to be a lot of federal and state budget cuts next year. So it is my job to make sure that students get, the resource center's budget is being saved. Students get what they need, and if those centers don't have budget to do events, ASUCI collaborates with them, get the students there. This will make sure they can have access to those places, resources, and everything. Finally, I'll make sure I have monthly meetings with the resource centers to make sure I get what they're working on, what student feedback they are getting.
For your response. The internal vice president oversees undergraduate representatives to 6 campus advisory boards. What is your understanding of the scope of these boards, and how would you equip representatives to effectively advise on student interests?
Can you repeat the question once more?
Sure. The internal vice president oversees undergraduate representatives to 6 campus advisory boards. What is your understanding of the scope of these boards, and how would you equip representatives to effectively advise on student interests?
Thank you so much. These advisory boards are made for every student fee that is given out. So for example, we give a fee to the ARC, we give a fee to the Student Center. So these advisory boards are meant to bring student feedback to them. Students need, student input is important. All of these members, representatives should be from across campus and be aware of the issues. So for example, if we have the ARC advisory board, if I'm recruiting members, I should be advertising in the ARC. We should be getting students who use the ARC on a daily basis because they know what issues are there. If they need more sports equipment, that should be there. They're the ones who can advocate for them. So getting students from all across campus, from different places, to represent on these boards and training them to know the bylaws and how they can effectively advocate for the students and get student input.
Thank you for your response. Your next question is: the internal vice president effectively serves as the chief operating officer of ASUCI. With hundreds of students joining ASUCI every year, how would you manage its effectiveness while maintaining cohesion within the organization?
Thank you so much. I think as I started out as an intern, I know how it works. What an intern does right now is boot most of the offices. IVP has more than 200 members. What my plan is to involve them more, engage them more in the office. If they do more policy and research work, they get more involved with the advocacy side of ASUCI. They will generate an interest to work more and stay in the office and take leadership roles. I want to work on making an intern rotation program. So interns are not just stuck and siloed in one office. They should be working one day in IVP. They should be working the other day in president's office. Other days should be collaborating with the AVP office. So they get information on how the entire association runs. So everywhere we're not looking for people who and training them every year, but making
Your
leadership
time is
pipelines. Thank you.
Executive officers of ASUCI have broad authority to propose new positions and redefine existing ones to best fulfill the needs of the undergraduate student body. What new positions, if any, would you propose? What positions, if any, would you redefine?
Thank you so much. Well, I would redefine every office in general to be more advocacy based, doing events on more advocacy levels. Along with that, I would restructure the office, the recruitment and retention office, making it more working on most of the intern program, making a rotational intern program where interns collaborate with each and every office, knowing more about the association. Along with that, and maybe an executive fellowship, where one intern is chosen to follow an exec in each office, so they can learn their everydays, how they function, so they could take up those roles potentially in the coming years. I would also add an comms or outreach officer for the entire association rather than each and every office having one. This would make sure that they have a list of all the clubs and RCO contacts so they can contact them, build relations. If anyone needs any work, they could do it, and outreach can be done on a more collaborative and integrated
Thank
level.
you, candidate. Moving on to questions about subject areas traditionally under the internal vice president. Returning to the topic of campus advisory boards. In previous years, the ARC Advisory Board has run into challenges maintaining adequate undergraduate representation. What would you do to ensure continued and effective representation?
As I said, I would make sure that these I advertise the boards in those specific areas. If I'm recruiting members for the ARC, I advertise in the ARC. I get members who use the ARC every day. They would be interested in improving the area they work out every day, which they love. Additionally, having feedback boxes so they're aware that something as the advisory board exists. The students give input on what they're facing, what issues they're facing. So the advisory boards check it every month, see what feedback people have. Additionally, I would also work on having them a different email so people know who to reach out, where to reach out if they have any issues. That would make sure people know about the board, people want to be more involved with the board, and advocate for more what they need in the ARC. Thank you.
Thank you for your response. Your next question is, the jurisdiction of the Bren Events Center Advisory Board includes determining how the center space is used for events. What are some initiatives you would advocate for on this board?
Thank you. Who uses the Bren? Dance group. We have the Filipino students. PACN is their yearly event that happens every year. We have the Chinese Association using it. We have the Indian Student Subcontinent Council using it. We have everyone using it. I would propose having them book the Bren at lower prices. So all the clubs present at UCI get discounted prices at booking a big place. Along with that, I would advocate for lower ticket prices. For example, if anyone goes to the basketball game off season, the tickets are pretty expensive. I would advocate that those ticket prices are lowered, and so students can afford them and easily attend those events. Thank you.
The Student Health Insurance Advisory Committee oversees the university's student health insurance plan and advises the operations of the Student Health Center. The following is a two-part question. What changes would you propose to our plan's Health Insurance Advisory Committee oversees the university's student health insurance plan and advises the operations of the Student Health Center? The following is a two-part question. What changes would you propose to our plan's benefit structure next policy year?
Thank you so much. So, from my freshman year to my second year, I paid $600 to $800 more for my health insurance. That is not a low amount. That is a lot. In the coming year, I want to make sure that healthcare is affordable. Everyone gets to afford healthcare because that's everyone's first priority. With regards to benefits, I want to make sure that every student has input. We launch a survey on what benefits students want. If people want more dollars allotted, benefits allotted for mental health, a therapist, that should be there. If people want more vision, want money, more additional resources, benefits to buy glasses, that should be there. It should be students who decide what they want and what they need. Thank you.
Thank you, candidate. How would you propose making both the committee?
Can you repeat the question once more?
How would you propose making both the committee and the Student Health Center more accessible to the student body?
Well, again, I would propose having a feedback box available at the Student Health Center. All of the places under Student Health Center, that is the counseling center, care center, everywhere. So they can give feedback whenever people want. If there's some issues they're facing, that this is expensive. If there's some benefits that people find during the year that is not offered, they can give feedback. So every year we can see to it, and the advisory board recommends the health center that this is what students want, this is what students, thank you.
Thank you for your response. Your next question is the ASUCI Constitution currently only references 6 compulsory campus-based fee advisory boards. When new advisory boards are created, what do you believe should be included in their scope and their structure?
Well, I feel if a new advisory board is created, we should have representation from all students. So for the new athletics referenda, students not only in athletics should be there, there should be students from everywhere so we can get a diverse view. And additionally, I have not, student input is the most important, and that should be incorporated whenever it's there. The scope of the committee should be advising all of the student fee. They should have major authority in their advice should be considered by the directors of those centers. For example, if the art needs more stuff, the director of the art should take those recommendations seriously, and the committee should make advices and call them out if something's being used incorrectly.
Your time is up. The current internal vice president has initiated major reforms of each advisory board to increase the quality of their advocacy and undergraduate representation. What reforms would you propose to these boards?
I think currently the issues are not willing to serve on these boards. I think there should be added incentives for members who serve on the board, be it a small stipend, free access to maybe their services, some sort of incentive so people to see field connect president and at-large senator. I have reached out to clubs with what issues they have been facing, and I found out most of them is public visibility and funding. I want to make sure that is at BSU and we serve as a liaison or as a helper to them. I also want to have student luncheons with all these members of student leaders across campus so I get regular feedback from them and how we can do better.
Lapsed. The Antigua Plants Garden and the Kihei Native Garden are campus projects jointly administered by the university and the internal vice president. How would you engage more students with the purposes of these gardens?
What people don't know, anyone can complete their Arroyo Vista. What we have there is sustainability things. We have the campus honors collegium housing, helping with it at the end. That is also a great goal. Who they are, more students near the housing, near the gardens.
ASUCI service jointly administered by student governments in the future.
Gardens.
ASUCI service jointly administered by student governments in the future.
The vendor's fair primary goal is to serve the students, promote student businesses. If someone has a jewelry business at Ring Road during vendor fair, once all students are empowered to booth, we can go on supporting local businesses and vendors who do not get the visibility as they do outside. Businesses, jewelry businesses, all those kinds of businesses which student run, those should be heavily discounted. Second, help out promote local vendors at Orange County and maybe outside too. Thank you.
Thank you for your response. Your next question is the internal vice president administers a number of courses on behalf of ASUCI classes for the student body.
Can you repeat the question?
Of course. So your question is, the internal vice president administers a number of courses on behalf of ASUCI. The following is a two-part question. First, how would you raise the awareness and accessibility of these classes for the student body?
All of these classes are normally effective, but at times we have low enrollment in these classes. In one of the classes, that would be great if we have the health class, if the health center comes in and all with the schools, for example, the health class. Thinking, I feel they can work on many used widely across campus. Thank you.
Thank you for your response. All questions relevant to the role of the internal audience for our candidates.
Resources accessible from ASUCI openly on the website, easily accessible. So these are some ways we can assess the CMTO. IVB office can assist the CMTO. Additionally, maybe helping out clubs if they do not have resources to take pictures, to have photo shoots, to have recordings. Maybe some sort of collaboration with IVP, CMTO, and those clubs to get more resources. Because at the end, we are serving the students and the clubs of UCI.
Thank you for your response. Are there any other questions from the audience for the candidate? Then, seeing and hearing none, I'll pass the mic to next one.
All right, thank you for your responses. We are now reaching the end of the ASUCI internal vice presidential debate. So with that, we will have a 1 minute, 30-second closing statement from the candidate.
Thank you so much. I'd firstly like to thank the Elections Commission who have worked endlessly to make this election season great and hoping to increase turnout. I would also like to thank the university to cover the elections and take interviews, take interest in these elections so intriguingly. Next week, you all will have the power to make a decision to bring change, a decision to decide whether you want ASUCI to change, advocate for you, engage with you, listen to you, and work with you. I have the experience, knowledge, and concrete plans to bring change for you. I would like to shortly talk about my slate and Teacher Pact. We are a group of dedicated executives and senators who want to bring change, and we all have the same goals to serve you, the students, and the clubs of UCI. Finally, I am Harshvardhan Rathore, your candidate for internal vice president. Please vote for me next week to bring change for you and advocate for you. Have a very good evening, everyone.
Thank you for your closing statement. This concludes the ASUCI internal vice presidential debate. Please give our candidate one final round of applause as they exit the stage. You've had the opportunity to be one of our incredible candidates for internal vice president today. However, there are a total of 2 incredible candidates running for the position of internal vice president. To learn more about all candidates running for the position of internal vice president, please head over to the elections website, elections.uci.edu. At this time, we will now enter a brief intermission to prepare for the ASUCI presidential debate. Please return to your seats by approximately 6:47 p.m. so we can continue on with tonight's event in a timely manner. Thank you. Commission and U University. In a moment, we will begin the ASUCI presidential debate. At this time, please return to your seats and silence all devices out of respect to the candidates. With that, please give our candidates for ASUCI President a warm round of applause as they enter the stage.
Here are the rules for the debate. Each candidate will have 1 minute to answer the question. Each candidate will have the opportunity to offer a 30-second rebuttal to another candidate's answer. Each candidate may only offer 1 rebuttal per question. Each candidate will have the opportunity to offer a 15-second clarification to another candidate's rebuttal. Each candidate may only offer 1 clarification per rebuttal. At the front of the audience, a member of the Elections Commission will provide hand signals to indicate how much time a candidate has left. A 1 will indicate 1 minute, a C will indicate 30 seconds, and a 10-second countdown will be provided. Candidates may ask the moderators to repeat the question once per candidate. All candidates have reviewed and agreed to the rules prior to this debate. Now we will begin with 1 minute, 30-second opening statements from each candidate, starting with Alondra.
Good evening. Thank you guys so much for being here today. My name is Alondra Revelo, and I'm running for ASUCI president because...
So the mics may be off. We'll reset the time. Apologies.
So silly.
If all the candidates can make sure your mics are turned on, and then we will reset the time.
Hello. Good evening, and thank you so much for joining us today. My name is Alondra Revelo, and I'm running for ASUCI president because I want to make actual feasible impact on campus. For a little background on me, I'm a third-year public health policy major and international studies double major, and I've been in ASUCI since my freshman year, starting as an organizing staffer in EVP, becoming at-large senator my second year, and third year continuing my work as at-large senator, and now Senate Pro Tempore. And on campus, I also work at the Basic Needs Center as a financial wellness peer coach. These experiences really did fuel my drive to want to create change here on campus at the highest level possible, which is through presidency. I'm running on advocacy and collaboration on my platform. And in regards to advocacy, I'm focusing on policy-informed advocacy, which essentially means to get things done as efficiently and effectively as possible, using my background that I have in ASUCI, UCI, and UC policy to merit my conversations with administration and with the student body. In regards to collaboration, I will be focusing on collaborating not only with administrators to make change on campus, but also reaching out directly to the students themselves through RCOs and student organizations here on campus in order to meet their concerns at the highest level that I can. Thank you.
Thank you for your opening statement. We will now have a 1 minute, 30-second opening statement from Sahil.
Hi everyone, my name is Sahil Chakuri, and I'm a third-year business administration major, and I'm very excited to be running to be your next ASUCI president. In my opinion, a student should only be focused on 3 things and 3 things only: academics, career, and community. Our schools brag about being on the top of some US Forbes lists, US News lists, and so much more. But in reality, our students face so many issues. Financial aid awards are delayed, they can't pay rent. When we want to have a voice, we're told to be quiet, and we're met with silence. Especially during my time in the office of the president for the past 2 years, I've seen students struggle with paying tuition, securing housing, and dealing with the overwhelming amount of stress and burnout. I know these issues because I face them too. But these challenges are not going anywhere, and no one should tell you that they can be fixed in a year. These challenges need advocacy, someone to fight and argue on behalf of the student body. And I am an advocate for financial literacy, mental health, sustainability. So that's why I'm running for ASUCI president, to meet students where they're at and help provide the guidance, education, and most importantly, advocate for the resources that they need to make sure that these 3 fundamentals, academics, career, and community, are at the forefront of their college experience. Thank you.
Thank you for your opening statement. We will now have a 1 minute, 30-second opening statement from Austin.
Good evening, leaders. My name is Austin Pierce. Is this on? Hello? Can you switch your mic on? Can you switch the mic on? Oh, no. All right.
We will reset your time.
Thank you so much. All right. Start with that. Good evening, Anteaters. My name is Austin Pierce, and it gives me great pride to say that I am running to be your student body president. During my time at this university, I have seen and experienced the struggles that students face today. I speak with students every single day, and they are in agreement with me that ASUCI can do more. I am not satisfied when thousands of our classmates are unable to receive the financial aid they need to go to school. I am not satisfied when my university charges the highest parking rates out of any school in Orange County and heaps them onto the students who can afford them least. I am not satisfied when my friends and my classmates are afraid to go to school because of their immigration status. I am not satisfied when only 25% of RCOs report feeling supported by the university. I am not satisfied because I know we can do more. This election, we are being asked to choose what direction our student government will take next year. We are being asked to choose between keeping the status quo or a type of representation that is effective and bold. That is my vision for what student government can be. And I believe that my candidacy and my slate's Anteater Rising is the choice that can best lead our school. This April 14th, I'm calling on you to join the fight for a better UCI. And together, we can build a campus that we can all be proud to call our own. Thank you.
Thank you for your opening statements, candidates. Starting off our questions for tonight. In general terms, what is your understanding of the role of ASUCI president? To begin, we'll begin with the candidate Sahil.
I believe the role of the president can be boiled down to three main focus areas. Most basically, the president is responsible for the general management of their office. To lead a large team is not easy, but this is something that I am not shy to. I currently lead as your mental health commissioner, which is the largest office within the office of the president. Another role of the president is to maintain the general welfare of the student body. Traditionally, the office of the president focuses on basic needs, and I will make sure that basic needs advocacy is at the forefront of every action that we do as an office. But most importantly, the office of the president serves as a voice for all students. I think many times there are times where students don't feel like their voices are represented accurately or at all. As president, I would make it my utmost responsibility to make sure that every community has a voice in administrative spaces, and I would make sure I take those opportunities very seriously. Thank you.
Thank you, candidate. Next up, we will have candidate Austin.
Thank you for the question. I believe that the office of the president is supposed to be the chief representative for our school. It is the first ear to the administration. It is the first representative to the chancellor and the provost and to the professional staff. When there's an issue on campus, when there are demands that are unmet by the student body, it is the president who is the first person who's meant to meet those challenges. The office of the president is also the face of UCI. It's not only the face of ASUCI, but the face of the entire school as well. When we think of our president, we should think of pride. We should think of someone who we can be proud to call our leader. The office of the president is also meant to capture the voices of students and the demands that we have for change and for advocacy as well. When there are issues facing our campus, for example, parking or financial aid crisis, it is the president that is supposed to be there in the trenches, fighting on behalf of students' needs. Thank you.
Thank you, candidate. Next up, candidate Alondra.
So like the others mentioned, the ASUCI president is the primary representative for the general student body. However, the ASUCI president is president of the association. We are not solely the president of the office. We are in charge of having to collaborate with all of our fellow offices in the executive cabinet in order to make actual, efficient, and meaningful change. Through collaborating with the rest of the executive cabinet as a leader of the association, we will be able to actually get things done by working effectively. Thank you.
Thank you for your responses. Your next question is, given the pool of candidates running in this election cycle, why are you uniquely qualified for the position of ASUCI president? What distinguishes you from the other candidates? Austin, we'll begin with you.
Thank you for the question. I believe what distinguishes me from my other candidates, and I want to mention that I believe that all my candidates here, or all my opponents here, are very qualified and impressive individuals. But I believe what distinguishes my campaign is my unique vision for what ASUCI could be. I believe that the relationship that students have with their student government is unacceptable. There's chronically low engagement. Almost every single student I talk to, their first response is, "We have a student government?" That is not how it's supposed to function. I believe that my vision for student government will empower RCOs to be the primary mechanism through which students engage with their government. I believe that by changing the relationship that students have with RCOs and that RCOs have with their government, we can empower sustainable and powerful change and a powerful incentive for students to be involved in their student government. Thank you.
Thank you for your response. Alondra, same question.
So what differentiates me from the rest of my candidates is that standing here today, I am the only candidate on this stage with experience in ASUCI policy. In order to get things done effectively as ASUCI president, the president needs to know policy. Policy is what leads change. You can't start change from having a conversation, yes. But to back that up, you need merit, and you need things to back up the arguments that you're seeing and what gives you the jurisdiction to even make claims in the first place. I'm the only one that knows how our policies work in order to effectively get things done. And I am also the only one that has current relationships with administration that I plan to build on should I be elected. Thank you.
Thank you for your response. Sahil, same question.
So I believe that to be an effective leader, you need to understand the roles in which you're going to lead. I'm the only candidate on the stage who has had experience working within the office of the president for the past 2 years, and the only one currently leading as a commissioner. I know the ins and outs of how commissions operate within the office of the president, and I know feasibility. I've also had the opportunity to work directly with the current president on initiatives, and through weekly meetings and updates, I understand how the current president fulfills the duties of the role, giving me great insight into what that actually looks like. And I also know policy, UC level policy, student government policy, as well as general campus procedures. And I'll also let my past work speak for itself. I've led community-wide conferences. I work with department administration. I'm currently working to implement mental health first aid education for students. And I've worked with first-generation Latino communities to enhance financial literacy. I'm also someone who's not afraid to disagree with administration and make sure all voices are heard when appropriate.
Thank you for your responses. Yes, you may offer a 30-second rebuttal.
I just also wanted to mention that you don't necessarily need Office of the President experience to run the Office of the President. As a senator, I hear very immense updates every week from the office. I understand the workings of the office. I understand how it works. And also, I do also want to mention I am the only candidate on this stage with executive cabinet experience, which as ASUCI president, you are chairing the executive cabinet. Thank you.
For a 15-second clarification, I think it does matter to be in the office that you're going to be leading. I think every office is very unique, every branch is unique, and to make sure that you understand each role within the office you're leading is important. Thank you.
Are there any other candidates that would like to offer a rebuttal before moving on to the next question? Moving on, your next question is, what do you believe is the most important issue to the student body, and how would you address it as ASUCI president? Alondra, you may answer this question first.
Right now, especially given the current federal administration, the biggest issue affecting our student body right now is the protection of our DEI initiatives here on campus. At UCI, we have so many resource centers, such as the Dream Center, the Basic Needs Center, the LGBTQ Center, and all the other resource centers on campus that, one, receive funding from the school in order to protect our students and protect the inclusion of our students on campus. These initiatives are being threatened on a day-to-day basis at the federal level, and as ASUCI president, my main priority going into the next year will be focusing on protecting these resources, ensuring that they are continuously being funded, and advocating for the students that use these resources on a daily basis. Thank you.
Sahil, same question.
I think a major issue that students face on this campus is that a lot of students don't feel represented and they don't feel their voices are heard adequately. I think there are so many intersectional groups that are facing fears that they can even be on our campus. For example, the recent visa revocations that happened leave so many students worried if they can even continue their education. As ASUCI president, I want to take the time to find the disparities between communities, providing the relevant support and resources that they need. Over the past few weeks, I've taken the opportunities to speak to so many different cultural organizations and students to hear if they feel that their voices are being represented. And it's an overwhelmingly amount of no's. As president, I will make sure to consistently work with these communities, specifically marginalized ones, and make sure that their voices are heard with administration. Thank you.
Austin, same question.
Thank you for the question. I believe that the greatest issue facing ASUCI is our chronic lack of engagement from the student body at large. I believe that the issues of under-engagement are weakening our ability to advocate for meaningful change. I'm in absolute agreement with my opponents that visa revocations are one of the greatest issues facing students today. But what can we as ASUCI do if the entire remit of our authority is signing open letters and writing strongly worded emails to the administration? I believe that we need to reorient the ASUCI focus into actual meaningful demand for change, and that we need to build up our bargaining power, our leverage, our negotiating power with the university. So that way, if, God forbid, our students are being targeted for their immigration status, that we will be able to leverage the university to actually take meaningful change instead of just signing symbolic gestures like we have been doing for years. Thank you.
Moving on to questions about the responsibilities of the ASUCI president. The ASUCI president is the only undergraduate student who regularly meets with the chancellor. What items would you agendize for your first meeting with the chancellor? Candidate Sahil, you may begin.
So my priorities with meetings with the chancellor are quite simple. I would 100% prioritize understanding especially now, I would prioritize understanding how UC Irvine as an institution can operate and support our students given the federal changes that are happening right now. Like I said earlier, there are so many students who, again, fear their rights are going to be taken away and that they may not even be able to stay on this campus. I want to make sure that I want to protect every student's right that they have as a student here. I also want to make sure that we are enhancing transparency with administration. I want to have the right conversations to figure out what information can students know and how can we bring that information to them. For example, there's so much information on the student visa revocations that students want to know. I would work with the administration to get those answers and communicate that effectively with students. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, candidate Austin.
May you repeat the question, please?
The ASUCI president is the only undergraduate student who regularly meets with the chancellor. What items would you agendize for your first meeting with the chancellor?
I believe that the most pressing priority facing students today is the perennial existence of the financial aid crisis. The financial aid crisis has affected literally tens of thousands of students. Over 80% of our school relies on some kind of form of financial aid. I am one of those students who relies on financial aid to get my education. And my family is one of those families that if our financial aid is delayed, my education is in flux. I believe that in my first meeting with the chancellor, in addition to the other issues brought up by opponents, we need to demand more staffing for the Office of Financial Aid. We need to demand that their equipment, which is incredibly outdated, be upgraded to be high-tech and can actually channel and focus all of the questions by students. And we also need to upgrade OFAS's communication strategies. I talk with students every single day who have no idea when their fees are due or how to submit the documents they need to submit. That would be my priority meeting with the chancellor. Thank you.
Next up, candidate Alondra.
So once again, our DE&I initiatives here on campus are being threatened every single day by the federal administration. In the state of California alone, and at the UC level, we are expecting an 8% budget cut on our campus. This will not only affect our resource centers here on campus, but will affect our organizations and will affect ASUCI. ASUCI will be losing funding in the next coming years, and in my conversations with the chancellor, I plan to ensure that we are protecting our valuable resources that our students rely on campus every single day. And in regards to all of the other issues as well, financial aid, that was a huge one. Ensuring that there are plans put in place to ensure that students don't get dropped from their classes, to ensure that students still have places to go if they can't afford to pay their lease. And also in regards to hiring with financial aid, we are in a hiring freeze. So how will we be able to hire more people? Thank you.
I'd like to add a rebuttal.
You have a 30-second rebuttal.
Yes, so there was a clarification on the issue of the financial aid crisis. I've actually been in talks with Penny Morales and the Vice Provost and the Vice Chancellor as well. We were actually talking about this. Currently, is an onboarding process of 4 new additional staff for the OFAS, Office of OFAS. My plan is not going to be necessarily hiring more staff because I'm aware of the staffing freeze, but instead to dramatically expedite the hiring process of these new staff. And that's in addition to upgrading the materials and the equipment, as I mentioned previously. Thank you.
You have 15 seconds.
Firstly, on your platform specifically, you did mention Patty Morales. You actually spelled her name wrong with an E instead of an A, but I digress. With financial aid specifically, we must focus on having a feasible plan for these students. Yes, the hiring freeze is an issue.
Your time is
but-
elapsed.
Thank you.
Are there any other candidates that would like to provide a rebuttal to this question? If not, we will move on to
I'd
our
like
next
to add a rebuttal as well. How long?
30 seconds.
Okay, thank you. First, I think it was a little inappropriate to bring up a spelling mistake in my candidate statement, but in the more important issues, I believe I've actually been speaking with these people, and it's not only about upgrading the staff, but it's also about upgrading their equipment as well. Currently, OFAS relies on a phone system that is literally from the 1990s. Calls that come from students are literally not received, voicemails are not received, they're not able to manage all of these communications. Furthermore, they rely on forms of communications that students are just not familiar with.
Apologies, candidates. I believe I accidentally gave one of the candidates 2 rebuttals. So if the other 2 candidates would like to provide an open rebuttal to this question, you may have 1 minute for your rebuttal instead of 30 seconds. And then clarification, you may have 30 seconds. But if the candidates would not, we will move on to the next question.
For rebuttal.
Of course, you get 1 minute.
Yeah, so I do want to recenter this conversation to the main focus of financial aid. From the way I look at it, the financial aid crisis was intense. I have friends in this room who had issues paying the rent because of the financial aid delays. But I don't necessarily, because let's look at why that happened. They wanted to roll out a new system, it didn't work. That's technology. Do I think that they are putting in systems in place to remedy that? Yes. But what the main issue is that students were not getting the right communication from the appropriate administrators and department heads to make sound decisions. I think as ASUCI president, should this type of situation arise, I would prioritize making sure that students know what information they need to know and how they can solve whatever issue comes up. Thank you.
Thank you for your responses. Your next question is, the ASUCI President serves as a liaison to the UC Regents and the UC Office of the President alongside the External Vice President. What items would you prioritize when communicating with these system-wide bodies? Austin, you may begin first.
May you please repeat the question?
Of course. Your question is, the ASUCI President serves as a liaison to the UC Regents, the UC Office of the President, and the UC Office of the President alongside the External Vice President. What items would you prioritize when communicating with these system-wide bodies?
Yes, thank you for the question. I believe that one of the issues we need to prioritize is streamlining the line of communication between the regents, the university, the federal government, and ASUCI. Currently, as my opponent Sahil wisely mentioned, there is a lack of communication that exists. So a lot of these policies that are rolled out, we just aren't really sure what's happening, and we implement them, and it just causes chaos. Streamlining this line of communication, demanding transparency, demanding reliable accountability as well, will be one of my priorities in my discussions with the bodies that you mentioned. I also believe that we should prioritize the voices of students during these discussions. Currently, when we have these meetings, when we create these joint statements, many students' voices are left out of the conversation. I believe by expanding the jurisdiction or the amount of voices that we are willing to hear as ASUCI, we can make our government more accountable and more representative to the student body. Thank you.
Thank you for your response. Alondra, same question.
Can you repeat the question?
Of course. The question is, the ASUCI President serves as a liaison to the UC Regents and the UC Office of the President alongside the External Vice President. What items would you prioritize when communicating with these system-wide bodies?
Well, given the recent events that have happened in the UCs the last couple of weeks, one main thing I would prioritize in my agendas when talking to these people is talking about the protections for international students on our campuses. Even though, yes, we know that their visas were revoked because of violations of the terms, I want to be transparent with the student body and knowing that they are aware of their terms. And I also want to be advocating for these students at the UC level, ensuring they are protected at the UC level should their terms not be violated. Thank you.
Thank you for your response. Sahil, same question.
So in this context, when working with UC Regents and UC COP, Office of the President, in this context, I would also be working with like the UC Council of Presidents, which is a body of student body presidents. And with this, I would make sure that advocacy is at the focus of all of these conversations. I want to talk more broadly about changing systems. We're all talking about how the federal government is implementing a lot of changes that affect our students. And I want to figure out how we can address these changes on a system-wide level for the betterment of the entire UC system. As I mentioned, working with a council of student body presidents across the UC system, I also want to take that opportunity to work with them and understand the differences on our campuses. What issues are their students facing, and what can we learn from that as well? And together we can collaborate and push advocacy efforts up the ladder as well. Thank you.
Thank you for your responses. Next question is, the ASUCI president serves on and is often invited to serve on a number of campus advisory committees. In your opinion, what is the most important advisory committee on campus to students, and what would you advocate for on that committee? Alondra, you may answer first.
So a committee that the ASUCI president will be serving on next year is the Long Range Development Planning Steering Committee, or the LDRP. And this steering committee actually is discussing infrastructure plans at UC Irvine from 2027 to 2047. My impact next year will not only impact the students on campus right now, but the students for the next 20 years. This will include conversations such as parking availability, housing availability, and even our academic infrastructure. And in these conversations, I would be advocating for sustainable solutions for our growing population that we are expected to receive in the next coming years. Thank you.
Sahil, same question.
I think one of the most important committees that the president will sit on is the Public Safety Advisory Committee, and that is meant to address safety concerns on campus and advise UCI PD as well. I want to be consistent with what I'm saying, and I want to make sure that as I talk about how many students feel unsafe on our campus, I want to prioritize their safety as well as the entire student body. This committee has faced issues in terms of starting meetings early on and maintaining these meetings. I also want to enhance outreach efforts for these committees and talk directly to students to understand what safety issues that they are facing and how we can enhance them as well. Thank you.
Austin, same question.
I'd actually like to agree with my opponent, Alondra. I believe that the LDRP is one of the most important advisory committees that the Office of the President will sit on. I believe that our voice on that committee will be able to establish and safeguard the next generation of anteaters to make sure that they have a campus that they can be proud to call their own. I believe that through advocating for long-term solutions, through long-term infrastructural changes as well, that we can dramatically change the way that students, that our quality of life on campus. I believe, for example, by expanding library options for lower income students, for example. I know that I rely heavily on the computer tech program at the library, but their options are extremely limited. And so very often I'm not able to have a computer to run for class. So an option like that, for example, I would advocate increasing the budget for dramatically.
Thank you, candidates. The ASUCI president often coordinates with their counterpart in the Associated Graduate Students, the graduate student government at UCI. What issues and solutions would you propose jointly advocating for? Candidate Sahil, you may begin.
Of course, thank you for the question. When working with the president of the Associated Graduate Students, I would prioritize the issues that affect both the undergraduate and graduate population together. And oftentimes I believe that looks like addressing basic needs. Basic needs is something that affects all of our students, graduate, undergraduate alike. I will work with the AGS president to make sure that we are promoting and advocating for resources that our constituents need. I will also work with the AGS president to make sure that we are requesting and demanding the appropriate information from administration, whether it's stances on current issues that our students are facing, or more information on to be more transparent with students? Thank you.
Candidate Austin, you may begin.
I believe that one of the issues facing our graduate students at UC Irvine is the threat of dramatic cuts to funding for research programs and for grants. These issues affect not only graduate students, but also undergraduate students, because these are the programs that we apply for when we graduate. These are the programs that we intern for right now as students. If these opportunities and these programs are gutted, not only will students be affected and graduate students be affected, but the entire world will be affected, because we are dramatically decreasing healthcare research, decreasing social science research, equity and accountability research. All of this affects millions of people. And the fact that these cuts are even on the table is abhorrent. I believe that by working and collaborating with the AGS, we should demand that funding for UC Irvine's research programs be maintained and be safeguarded for the future. Thank you.
Next up, candidate Alondra.
I've actually already had a couple of conversations with people in AGS in the past, specifically during my, when I was doing work with my position in EDP, when they were collaborating for voter registration and for all of the debates that were happening in November. But when I collaborate with AGS, I want to focus primarily on basic needs, specifically the basic needs referenda. As someone who works at the Basic Needs Center, I already know about the referenda that AGS did this year, and I want to expand that for next year, as next year UCI undergraduates are expecting the basic needs referenda to renew and be on the ballot next election cycle. And given the conversations I've already began, I would love to expand these and grow more with my collaboration with AGS on this issue. Thank you.
Thank you for your responses. Your next question is: the ASUCI president serves on the UC Council of Presidents, a governing body composed of all the UC student body presidents. From an Irvine perspective, what issues and solutions would you propose jointly advocating for that would have an impact on the UC system as a whole? Austin, we'll start with you.
Thank you for the question. The UC Council of Presidents is a very powerful body that is able to fashion together the voices and representatives of every single school in the every single UC school into a joint voice that can demand advocacy and change. I believe that one of the primary priorities that I would want to add to this council would be demanding first sustaining research funds, because not only UC Irvine is a very prominent research school, but almost every single UC school relies significantly on resources from research grants. So I believe that advocating jointly for sustaining those funding measures would be a priority. Another priority is that students from in all of the UC schools are facing visa revocations, facing fears of deportations and ICE on campus. I believe that by advocating jointly through the Council of Presidents, that we can make a very strong, loud voice to demand that our students be allowed to stay on campus.
Alondra, same question.
In collaboration with the UC Council of Presidents, a conversation that will be priority next year will be the conversation of visa revocations on UC campuses, because that did not only affect UCI, it affected a majority of the other UCs. And specifically having a united front as presidents in our conversations with President Drake's successor, whoever that will be, because he is terming out in the spring, presenting a united front and advocating for our students on visas and our undocumented students as well, who are being affected on a day-to-day basis by the federal administration. This will allow us to have an effective impact in our conversations with whoever the next president may be. Thank you.
Thank you for your response. Sahil, same question.
Do you mind repeating the question, please?
Of course. The question is: the ASUCI president serves on the UC Council of Presidents, a governing body composed of all the UC student body presidents. From an Irvine perspective, what issues and solutions would you propose jointly advocating for that would have an impact on the UC system as a whole?
Of course, so we talked a lot about the issues that we face as a campus, basic needs, international student visas. These are all issues that I would love to collaborate with UC Council of Presidents. Specifically, I actually want to encourage more frequent meetings. I know that in recent years it's been hard to maintain consistent meetings with the UC Council of Presidents, and so I would like to encourage that as well. At the At the front of all of our advocacy efforts, I want to make sure that we're protecting students' rights to the best of our abilities and making sure that we are presenting all the facts across campuses to the president of the UC system. Like Alondra mentioned, as we're going to have a new president of the UC system, I want to make sure we're also having a good relationship good relationship on behalf of UC Irvine. And I want to make sure that we are contributing great advocacy efforts to the entire council as well. Thank you.
Thank you for your responses. Your next question is, the executive officers of ASUCI have broad authority to propose new positions and redefine existing ones to best fulfill the needs of the undergraduate student body. What new positions, if any, would you propose? What positions, if any, would you redefine? Alondra, you may answer first.
So something that I'd love to introduce in the Office of the President is specifically a Basic Needs Center director or like a Basic Needs Center liaison to be the head of the commission that would basically house housing security, food security, and financial wellness commissioners that currently exist within the office. I think having a basic needs liaison or like a basic needs director that has direct communication with the Basic Needs Center can help ensure that we're meeting the needs of not only the center, but the students that rely on the center as well in our advocacy efforts. And then this director can then relay assignments or relay policy initiatives to the Housing Security Commissioner, Food Security Commissioner, and Financial Wellness Commissioners who already do collaborate with the Basic Needs Center, but I think having that one body on top, making sure that they are all getting their tasks delegated appropriately is a good way to ensure full collaboration with the center. Thank you.
Sahil, same question.
So I come from the point of view that we have a lot of positions already in ASUCI, all meant for different reasons. In fact, a lot of the ASUCI budget goes towards stipends towards these positions. However, I would love to focus on enhancing and redefining a lot of the roles that are in ASUCI, starting with the president. For a long time, the Office of the President has maintained a focus on programming to achieve its goals, whether it's education or other programming as well. I want to make sure that we're shifting that focus to advocacy and promoting and fighting for the enhancement of resources, the introduction of resources as well. I also would love to redefine and help redefine the role of the Academic Affairs Vice President. As it relates to academic affairs, I would love for stronger collaboration with other branches such as the Senate, specifically the school-based senators, to help foster collaboration for academic
Your time
issues.
has elapsed.
Thank you.
Austin, same question.
May you please repeat the question?
Executive officers of ASUCI have broad authority to propose new positions and redefine existing ones to best fulfill the needs of the undergraduate student body. What new positions, if any, would you propose? What positions, if any, would you redefine?
Oh boy, well, where do I even begin? So I actually agree with Sahil that I believe that the current Office of the President places too much emphasis on event planning, on micromanaging our commissions, and on programming. I'm also very excited to know that at least someone read the full version of my candidate statement. I believe that the Office of the President should be reformed to focus almost entirely his efforts on advocacy and accountability. I also believe that we should reform the internal vice president. Currently, the internal vice president is a labyrinth, Byzantine labyrinth of a bunch of unconnected, diffuse commissions whose advocacy we have kneecapped. I believe that by reforming the internal vice president, in addition to the groundwork laid out by the constitutional reform, now the IVP will supervise a series of offices dedicated to the transparency and the function and the purpose of ASUCI. Independent offices of transparency, of personnel, of finances, of legal affairs will be created. Thank you.
30 seconds.
And I agree wholeheartedly that the Office of the President should be policy focused. The main point of my campaign actually is focusing on policy informed advocacy, which is using policy to elevate our efforts. The position I propose, the Basic Needs Director, will simply just be a liaison, just having conversations with the Basic Needs Center to advocate best for their needs. They wouldn't be necessarily just micromanaging different commissions, rather just relaying the message along so that the commissioners can best advocate for the students. Thank you.
Are there any other candidates who would like to offer a rebuttal or clarification before moving on to the next question? Moving on to questions about subject areas traditionally under the ASUCI President's portfolio. All three of your campaigns center basic needs as integral to a student's success at UCI. The following is a two-part question. What do you believe is the greatest barrier to students achieving basic needs, security, and financial stability on campus? How would you address it as ASUCI President? Candidate Sahil, you may begin.
The biggest barrier is knowledge. Students across our campus, if you just stop them in Ring Road, you ask them what the resources that exist on campus for any specific basic need, they're not going to be able to tell you they're not going to be able to tell you the resources to its full extent. I think ACCI can step in and do a lot better when it comes to educating students on the resources that exist. I think that's been a focus in a way we approach advocacy in the Office of the President. It's a way I've approached advocacy as Mental Health Commissioner, where part of my advocacy efforts includes educating students on the resources that exist on campus. As President, I would make sure to collaborate with IVP, the Internal Vice President, an office focused on resources, to make sure we bring more education about the resources on campus to students as well. Thank you.
Candidate Austin?
I am in agreement with my opponent, Sahil. One of the first impressions I got from coming out to campus, in addition to many of my friends as well, is there are so many resources, there are so many commissions, there are so many places available for me to receive food printing or receive these grants or receive these things, but I have no idea what they are. I have no idea how to access them. I have no idea how to go to them, right? I believe that one of the priorities is, number one, I believe we should first increase the funding that we provide to the Basic Needs Center. The restructuring reforms engendered by the new Constitution, in addition to reforms that my administration will spearhead, will save $200,000 to $300,000 from the budget, according to estimates from the ASUCI. I plan to spend a significant amount of that increasing the grants provided by the Basic Needs Center. But in addition to that, I believe by streamlining the line of communication that ASUCI provides for the resources that we offer, by expanding the communication that we have and expanding engagement, we can allow those resources to actually reach the students who need them. Thank you.
Next up, candidate Alondra.
Can you repeat the question?
All three of your campaigns center basic needs as integral to a student's success at UCI. The following is a two-part question. What do you believe is the greatest barrier to students achieving basic needs, security, and financial stability on campus? How would you address it as ASUCI President?
I think a key problem that the student body faces in regards to getting access to these resources is quite literally just the fact that these resources are not necessarily the most accessible on campus. Financial aid, it's hard to reach them, their phone lines are always delayed. The Basic Needs Center is actually kind of far from campus, and I would love to collaborate with the center to make the center more accessible to the students, such as creating a shuttle service or something of that nature. In addition, our resource centers on campus, there are just so many, and it's really hard for a general student who has no knowledge of the current resource center on campus to be able to figure out what is the appropriate resource center to go to for a certain issue. I would collaborate with my executive cabinet on these initiatives, such as my AAVP or my IVP, and we would collaborate on ensuring that the student body is aware of all of the resources on campus, their functions, how to get there, and what resources they can provide for them. Thank you.
Thank you for your responses. The next question is on housing. What specific policies would you promote to enhance the affordability and accessibility of housing at UCI? Austin, we'll begin with you.
Thank you for the question. During my time at college, housing has always been an issue for me. I've had to find apartments that are literally half an hour away from campus, and I have to commute to every single day because I did not have more affordable options that were more available to me. I believe that I know that thousands of our students on our campus suffer from lack of housing or from unreliable housing. I believe that through expanding the resources that ASUCI provides under the Housing Center, through more funding, through more accessibility, through offering this program to more students facing a unique set of housing-related challenges, I believe that we can improve the resources that these students are able to have. I believe that no student should have their education threatened because of their housing situation. And with my efforts through my administration, I believe that I can make that campus a reality. Thank you.
Thank you for your response. Alondra, same question.
Similarly, I've also personally faced housing struggles. My second year at UCI, I was commuting 2 hours to and from the IE to come to school. And my first year, I was commuting about 30 minutes to and from because I couldn't afford housing on campus. One thing that I would focus on next year, however, will be guaranteeing international student housing on campus, because right now, you're coming from another country and you're coming somewhere without housing. Guaranteeing international students housing will guarantee that they have a good student life here at UCI during their time here. In addition, I would advocate for students who may find harder times finding housing, such as those who may potentially be studying abroad in the following quarters, or for those who have returned, or for those who are low income. Advocating for guaranteed housing for them as well, for these communities, will help ensure that students don't have to look far to go to school.
Thank you for your response. Sahil, same question.
To start off, I would also love to advocate for guaranteed housing for international, but also I would love to expand that to out-of-state students. To me, it makes no sense that you are going to a new place, new state, new country, and you aren't guaranteed housing. Further, I would love to advocate for more housing units, more housing communities as well. I think a main issue that is related to the housing crisis, most likely an adjacent issue, is that the university admits so many students and keeps increasing the amount of students they admit. I would try to work with the administration to see how we can have a more sustainable approach to how many students we admit and how many of them are offered housing. I would also try to work with my EVP to figure out how we can subsidize housing, and if that means going all the way up to the state level and state legislature and seeing how we can push for legislation to advocate for that on a system-wide level for the UC system, I think that would be very beneficial for students. Thank you.
Your next question is, in addition to existing basic needs resources on campus, what new resources or changes to resources and partnerships would you prioritize as ASUCI president? Alondra, you may answer first.
So one thing to really increase the basic needs on campus is to increase my collaboration with the Basic Needs Center. Right now there is collaboration with different offices in ASUCI with the center, but I want that to be a priority next year, as especially, once again, given the federal administration, these resources are being threatened, and many students are losing a lot of resources on a day-to-day basis. Increasing my collaboration with them, in addition to encouraging the collaboration within the executive cabinet, working together to increase our efforts in advocating for the students and making sure that basic needs on campus are accessible to all students who need them. Thank you.
Sahil, same question.
So for basic needs, I come from the point of view where we have so many resources on campus, so rather than creating new ones, I would rather focus on enhancing the ones that exist. Starting with the Basic Needs Center, there are so many resources on campus that have similar missions, similar goals. For example, the Basic Needs Center offers financial wellness, peer educators, and designed to help students with their finances. I work at the Center for Investment Wealth Management, and we offer courses to help students with their personal finance. I'm actually working on initiatives to include those modules in the onboarding for the financial wellness peer educators at the Basic Needs Center. So enhancing that resource in that way. The Basic Needs Center also has mobile food pantries. I would love to increase just presence of those food pantries and make sure that we shift from a perspective where we try to bring students to resources and rather bring the resources to students. Thank you.
Austin, same question.
Thank you for the question. I believe that there are two main programs that I would like to spearhead in my administration. The first one is a discounted program for students with low income for their parking costs. Currently, over half of our school are commuters, and commuters tend to be more lower income. This means that the onerous parking fees that the Office of Transportation charges students are deeply regressive, meaning that the students who are not able to pay or least able to pay are forced to pay. I believe that through ASUCI and through the administration, hopefully, but if the administration is not able to, through ASUCI, a program where we discount the cost of parking for students of low income. I also believe that we should establish a campus-wide program or a text program to alert ICE presence on campus. I believe that the current system that we have is deeply unsuitable for the challenges that we very well may face in the coming months. I believe that this network program will be able to notify international students.
Thank you, candidates.
Rebuttal.
You have 30 seconds.
As for the Basic Needs Center collaboration, I'm actually currently a financial peer coach at the Basic Needs Center. I would actually want to expand my job in my new position as president if I'm elected. Currently, we are working with cohorts that are marginalized communities based. So we pick students that are from the Dream Center, that are from underground scholars, students that potentially do not get the financial advice that another typical student may get and receive. I would increase that collaboration and ensure that cohort program stays the same, because as of right now, we are finding out that we may be cut due to these cuts in the budget. Thank you.
Any other rebuttals on the floor? Seeing none, the University of California defines campus climate as the current attitudes, behaviors, and standards of faculty, staff, administrators, and students concerning the level of respect for individual needs, abilities, and potential. The following is a 3-part question. What do you believe is the greatest barrier to student safety on campus, and how would you address it as ASUCI president? Candidate Soho, you may begin.
I think one of the biggest barriers to safety is the lack of trust on campus. Students don't trust our administration, students don't trust some departments on campus, and students don't trust UCI PD. There are a lot of reasons for this, but as ASUCI president, it will be my job to make sure that students feel safe on campus. We have a campus climate commission, and I would make it my priority to work with them to figure out how to make students regain trust on our campus as well. But I don't want them to just blindly trust anyone. I want there to be a good reason. I would make sure I'm working with administration to foster a great environment on campus, whether that means working with UCI PD, working on the police accountability board to make sure that UCI PD is accountable for their actions, working on the public safety advisory committee, making sure that we're advocating for the right changes to UCI PD, all to say to make sure that students feel safe and they can trust these departments on campus. Thank you.
Candidate Austin?
And thank you for the question. I believe that the biggest barrier to safety on campus is the lack of resources that the university is able to provide for students. UCI PD, as my opponent mentioned, does not have the trust and confidence of much of the student body. I've heard stories of students who request escort from UCI PD because they're afraid to walk home at night. And yet UCI PD leaves them on hold for almost an hour on end. That is unacceptable. I believe that firstly, we should expand the resources that we provide to students who are facing issues regarding their safety or their well-being. I believe that we should increase the staffing of UCI PD to protect students. I believe that we should increase the accountability of these safety commissions to make sure that they are actually doing their job and not making the situation worse. And I also believe that through engendering a campus climate of trust and engagement, of mutual collaboration, that students will feel more safe to call UCI their home. Thank you.
Candidate Alondra?
Can you repeat this, the question?
The University of California defines campus climate as the current attitudes, behaviors, and standards of faculty, staff, administrators, and students concerning the level of respect for individual needs, abilities, and potential. The following is a 3-part question. What do you believe is the greatest barrier to student safety on campus, and how would you address it as ASUCI president?
I think the biggest barrier to student safety on our campus is the fact that the heads on campus are not being held accountable, which leads to mistrust from the student body in order for them to advocate for themselves. We hear that we have free speech on campus, yet then we'll end up paying some sort of consequence for advocating for ourselves. And so I would ensure to the student body that they do have a say in the things that happen on campus and that they are allowed to advocate for themselves. And I, as the primary advocate, if elected as UCI president, will ensure in my conversations with administration that our students are being protected as they follow policy as it sees fit. Another thing is ensuring that students on campus know the policies that regard safety, such as time, place, manner policies, to ensure that they aren't facing any unnecessary consequences either. Thank you.
Thank you for your responses. Your next question is, what is your position on rising concerns in the field of higher education concerning diversity, equity, and inclusion, and how would you integrate it into your administration's advocacy? Austin, we'll begin with you.
Thank you for the question. I believe that the current DEI programs that our student government provides are unsuited or unsuitable for the current climate right now. I believe that through the constitutional reform, we will create an independent office of DEI, one that will combine all of the other equity-based programs and commissions into a unified, streamlined body that can focus almost entirely on its efforts of demanding actual advocacy and real enduring change for the university. I also believe that through collaboration through the EVP and through collaboration through the entirety of my cabinet and my staff, that we will demand a unified voice for these programs to maintain. These programs help make our campus a more vibrant, more colorful, more beautiful place. The fact that they're being cut and being gutted or being reduced is just unconscionable. I believe that my administration will dedicate itself to their defense and dedicate myself to students of all colors. Thank you.
Thank you for your response. Alondra, same question.
As I've said multiple times throughout this debate, DEI is a very core priority in my administration next year. I was actually on the Ad Hoc Constitutional Review Committee, which drafted and wrote the Constitution that is up for approval through the referendum. And we were aware that these cuts were potentially going to occur as we were drafting this Constitution. And through my administration, if elected, I will be continuing to advocate for DEI, not only through my programs and through my commissions that will be policy focused, but I will also continue for this to be a priority in my conversations with the chancellor, with the provost, with the deans, ensuring that our DEI resources on campus are being protected and are being funded by some sort of funding within our campus. Thank you.
Thank you for your response. Sahil, same question.
I agree that having diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives are one of the most important ways that we can make our students feel welcome and safe on our campus. As president, I would make sure to protect all these initiatives and fight to replace the ones that we've lost. Most notably, most recently, the UC system removed diversity statements from faculty hiring. Now, this is a policy shift that it may seem that us as an association may not be able to fully control. But still, as ASUCI president, I would do everything in my power to advocate for our university and for our UC system to still have some semblance of making sure that our faculty is best suited to serve our diverse student populations. We boast as a university that we are a very diverse campus. It's only right that our faculty and all of our resources and departments on campus reflect that as well. Thank you.
Thank you for your responses. Your next question is, how would you support the student body's right to advocate for themselves in the face of potential opposition or adversity from university entities such as the UC Regents, the UC Office of the President, and senior campus administrators? Alondra, you may answer first.
Even in light of opposition from administration in my conversations with them, I think this opposition will only motivate my advocacy efforts and ensuring that I'm reaching all the relevant resource centers on campus that may be affected by an opposition, making sure that I'm reaching students and student groups that are relevant in my conversations and telling them, this is what I've been told, I am advocating for you, you are my priority, getting their feedback on my conversations, and so we can see where to move forward from there in my conversations with administration. Ensuring that the student body is at the forefront of my conversations with administration at the end of the day is the priority. Thank you.
Apologies. Sahil, same question.
You mind repeating the question, please?
How would you support the student body's right to advocate for themselves in the face of potential opposition or adversity from university entities such as the UC Regents, the UC Office of the President, and senior campus administrators?
So to me, opposition should never be a reason to back down. And as president, I will make it my duty to empower all students who have the want and want to advocate for themselves. There has been times on campus where students wanted to advocate for causes that are really important to them, and they were met with tremendous opposition. I would take the opportunity to take those meetings with the chancellor and with all the relevant administration and make sure that I am adequately representing those students' needs. Most importantly, I want to make sure that students' rights are being protected, especially when it comes to freedom of speech and freedom of expression. Those are fundamental rights that are granted and our students have the right for. And so as president, I would make sure to prioritize the safety and the protection of their rights. Thank you.
Austin, same question.
Thank you for the question. I believe that many of these issues that my opponents touched on are incredibly important, and they will be priorities of my administration as well. However, I believe that one of the things that we would need to do as leaders or as president will be to reorient the culture that has plagued ASUCI. Whenever one of these issues has struck our campus, whether it be the financial aid crisis or the wanton expulsion of students exercising their free speech last year, ASUCI's first instinct was to sign a very strongly worded open letter. And I've read these open letters, and they were very strongly worded. But they did not stop students' free speech from being violated. They did not stop students from being dropped from their classes. They did not change a single thing because we've been too complacent with the symbolic nature of representation. I believe, if elected president, that I will reorient our government into demanding real change through using our leverage, through negotiating, through bargaining, not through passing symbolic gestures. Thank you.
Thank you, candidates. All three of your campaigns center wellness and health as integral to a student's success at UCI. The following is a three-part question. What would you propose to incorporate better mental health access into our campus student healthcare apparatus? Candidate Sahil, you may begin.
As mental health commissioner this year, it has been my focus to make sure that students have the adequate resources and support that they need. There are so many mental health resources on campus, but access to them is not the best. Students don't know about the resources that exist, like I mentioned before. And so I would like to prioritize making sure that students have the knowledge and access to these resources. I would work with administrators from campus departments, such as the Counseling Center, Center for Student Wellness and Health Promotion, CARE. And I would work with them to make sure that, again, instead of having that perspective of having students go to resources, let's bring the resources to the students. For example, the Counseling Center, it's the only way to make an appointment is either to walk inside or to call. I would love to advocate and help create and spearhead an online portal to make those appointments online. Again, improving accessibility to those resources. Initiatives like this would be the priority across the board, and I would make sure with my mental health commissioners to be spearheading those initiatives. Thank you.
Candidate Austin?
Thank you for the question. I believe that mental health is of primary importance to the student body. If we don't have our mental health intact, we cannot go to school, we cannot succeed in our jobs and our careers, we cannot build those communities and those connections that we need to thrive as students. I believe that we should expand those resources that the Mental Health Commission and other mental health resources on campus provides, but I believe that that fight shouldn't stop there. I believe that we should dedicate our resources also to making our campus a more friendly place for students suffering from mental health crises. For example, by advocating for policy changes that allow students facing depression or anxiety attacks to have more leniency in how they're able to negotiate their grades with with professors, or creating programs for students suffering from these issues to have better resources or to have better ability to negotiate grades. These are all things I think our campus should prioritize in addition to the points that my opponent mentioned. Thank you.
Candidate Alondra?
Can you repeat the question?
What would you propose to incorporate better mental health access into our campus student healthcare apparatus?
For starters, I would actually collaborate with the IBP on this one and ensure that our students that are on university healthcare, that their mental health care is being protected and is being covered, despite a bunch of funding changes that may be occurring. In addition, ensuring that the resources that we already have on campus are continuing to be sustained through university funding resources, and through my conversations with administration, ensuring that these resources that currently exist on campus are continuing to be protected. Thank you.
Thank you for your responses. Your next question is on menstrual and reproductive health care. what would you advocate for, and how would you ensure these resources are accessible to all students, particularly BIPOC and LGBTQ plus students? Austin, we'll begin with you.
I think I need to make it very clear. Reproductive health is healthcare. It is not a separate category. It is not something that we can wave away or dismiss just because it only affects certain members of our community. It is a real issue that we need to dedicate ourselves to guaranteeing for students. I believe that we should expand these resources that we apply to students. I know currently, for example, that we offer menstrual products in certain bathrooms, regardless of gender. I would like to expand that program throughout campus as well. I'd also like to make more clear the resources that we offer to these students who are facing, for example, discrimination because of their sexual orientation, or who need more access to menstrual products on campus. I believe that through these efforts that we can make a campus that is more accessible to students and where more students can feel comfortable. Thank you.
Thank you for your response. Alondra, same question.
I would want to expand our sexual health and wellness resources on campus, moreover by creating new programs for students to get access to these resources. One program that I had in mind that I think is already being worked on, and I'd love to expand on it in my administration should I be elected, is creating a wellness vending kind of machine on campus that has access to the products such as hygiene products, menstrual products, sexual health products, things that students don't necessarily have to go face-to-face for, simply just because there is unfortunately stigma surrounding these products in society, but making these readily accessible throughout campus where you don't have to look at a face in order to get access is critical to ensuring that students have access to their needs. Thank you.
Thank you for your response. Sahil, same question.
I would love to take the opportunity to acknowledge and commend our sexual health commissioners and within the Office of the President who have been able to do such amazing work in terms of enhancing the resources available on campus, such as implementing menstrual products in our bathrooms. Sexual health and education is probably one of the most important things. In fact, part of my campaign is to expand what we consider basic needs to not only include housing, food, and financial, but also to include mental health and sexual health. In my administration, I would make these topics, including sexual health, at the forefront of all of our advocacy efforts, whether it's making sure that students have more access to resources or it is easier to receive them. For example, I would love to subsidize menstrual products on our campus, whether that looks like talking to administration and see where we can allocate funds or whether we do that internally within ASUCI. Those are things I would love to work on. Thank you.
May I offer a rebuttal? It's a 30-second rebuttal.
I was just wondering, what would we be able to cut in our budget in order to allocate subsidies for these resources? Just because we are expecting budget cuts next year, everything's going to be super tight. We're going to have to do some cuts eventually. What will we afford to sacrifice in order to subsidize this?
For sure.
15-second clarification.
For sure. Thank you so much. Yes, I think there is so much of our budget that goes unused. I would love to reevaluate kind of the structure of our association, which is something that has already been done, as you've done with the constitutional reform. And I would love to make sure that we find ways to...
And is lapse? Are there any other rebuttals or clarifications?
I'd like to add a clarification as well.
You may offer a rebuttal, a 30-second rebuttal.
Wonderful. Yes, as Alondra mentioned, funding is going to be quite tight next year. That is why I'm proud to say that my candidacy and my slate Antietam Rising wholeheartedly endorse a constitutional reform. Through its streamlining efforts, through reducing redundancy, through reducing this waste that exists, and these overlapping commissions whose form of advocacy is giving out free stuff on Ring Road, we will save up to $200,000 to $300,000 from the budget. We can spend these resources however we want. We can spend them to increase menstrual product availability. We can spend them to increase basic needs support, mental health support, RCO support. Thank you.
Are there any other rebuttals or clarifications?
May I offer a rebuttal?
Yes, a 30-second rebuttal.
Just to finish my thought from earlier, like I said, there is so much of the budget that goes unused. I think a lot of our budget goes towards stipends. And as we look towards transitioning, if this new constitution gets passed, to a new structure, I would try to see how we can restructure our association to free up funds, and that way I would be able to allocate money to subsidize such products. Thank you.
May I offer a clarification?
We have a 15-second clarification.
If the Constitution gets passed, it wouldn't necessarily take effect until the year after our term. That's it. Thank you.
I also like to add a clarification to Sahil's statement. I may? Yes. I believe that we do receive stipends as students, as commissioners, but these stipends make up, I believe, either 5% to 3% of the budget. I'm not exactly sure on that number, but it's an incredibly low percentage. It's not this incredible amount as many students.
Time has elapsed.
Thank you.
Moving on to the next question. In addition to existing wellness and health resources on campus, what new resources or changes to resources and partnerships would you prioritize as ASUCI president? Alondra, you may answer first.
I'm sorry, can you repeat the question?
In addition to existing wellness and health resources on campus, what new resources or changes to resources and partnerships would you prioritize as ASUCI president?
For starters, I would just want to make these resources more accessible and more known to students. Educating the student body on these resources that are readily available on campus is crucial in order to meet the needs of students. Like the others have mentioned, many students on campus do not know about the resources that we offer. Many students on campus do not know about the different things that campus provides for them, different resources campus provides for them already. So just to maximize not only the funding that goes into these resources, but also just to better the students' life on campus is educating students on these resources that are already available and making them more accessible through my collaboration with these centers. Thank you.
So the same question?
So last quarter I had a really productive meeting with a faculty who is really trying to enhance wellness on campus. One of the concerns that she talked to me about is that there isn't really a wellness space on campus. Actually, the one that exists is the meditation room. However, because it is a meditation room, it's not able to be used or booked out for events. Events specifically that she would wanted to host, such as guided meditation or guided wellness practices. This is something that I would love to advocate for, whether it's advocating for spaces. I think having these types of spaces are important for wellness in general, and that's something I would prioritize.
Austin, same question?
May you please repeat the question?
In addition to existing wellness and health resources on campus, what new resources or changes to resources and partnerships would you prioritize as ASUCI president?
Yes, thank you for the question. I believe that currently one of the things mentioned by Sahil was the meditation space. I believe that this meditation space is just unsuitable for the needs that students have. There's only one of it. It's in the middle of campus, dozens of minutes away from other parts of the school, and it's not suitable for the kinds of programs that students need to book there. For example, one of my running mates, Enes, we are very connected with the Muslim community on campus, and they use this space to pray. And yet, they need this space 4 times a day, and they cannot go to this space because it is literally 20-minute walk from campus. Furthermore, it's literally just a bunch of yoga mats. We need to establish more programs for students to be able to go to have a time of rest, to have a time of prayer, to have a time for just rest, to nap, for example. These spaces, there are not enough of them, and they have too few resources. Thank you.
Thank you, candidates. Executive orders at the state and federal level often have significant impacts on students in higher education. How would you interpret and respond to executive orders, as well as ensure students are informed, empowered, and protected through your advocacy? Candidate Sahil, you may begin.
So when it comes to executive orders, I would first look at how is it immediately affecting the students on our campus. Most of the time, I would want to focus on how it is impacting the safety of our students on campus. A common theme that we have been talking about this entire conversation is about students' rights to stay on this campus, to stay in this country. And so that is something that I would love to prioritize, and then I would work with that at the appropriate administration, chancellor, provost, UC president, to see how we can protect these rights and make sure that our students are here to stay. Thank you.
Candidate Austin?
I'm sure many of you watch the news. Many of the executive orders coming from the federal administration are quite disheartening. For example, the closing of the Department of Education, which has caused dozens of programs and grant systems that we rely on our students to be closed. For example, one program that's affected me personally was the Fulbright program. I planned to apply for this program after I graduated. I wanted to go to Vietnam to pursue studies, but hearing the news was just crushing to me. Furthermore, executive orders relating to our students' immigration status, to our citizenship. These affect us in profound ways, our jobs, our livelihood, our homes. I believe that through collaboration, through the external vice president, through Hilde, through these programs, through these lines of communication and lines of advocacy, that we can make our voices heard and make it very clear, and that we can be a powerful body to demand change and demand that for our interests as students to be safe. Thank you.
Candidate Alondra?
Can you repeat the question?
Executive orders at the state and federal level often have significant impacts on students in higher education. How would you interpret and respond to executive orders, as well as ensure students are informed, empowered, and protected through advocacy?
As ASUCI president, I plan to collaborate with the EVP a lot in these advocacy efforts, as executive orders are state and federal. It involves them. We should collaborate in order to maximize our efficiency and maximize our impact in these spaces with administration when advocating for the students. As for informing the students, one is just ensuring to what extent the executive order will impact our campus specifically or impact the UC. And through there, informing the students and being transparent about potential budget cuts that may occur as a result of an executive order or potential risks that may take place due to an executive order. For example, when the International Center was informing students who left the country during spring break to be wary and be cautious, things like that to inform the student body of the risks of executive orders and also keeping them informed throughout their day-to-day.
Thank you for your responses. Your final question is, all three of your campaigns aim to bring significant reforms to ASUCI. What experiences do you have that qualifies you to lead a reform of ASUCI? And what specific NU reforms, other than those already being pushed by ASUCI, would you push for as ASUCI president? Austin, we'll begin with you.
Thank you. I believe that the primary reform that needs to come to our campus is by transitioning the way that club funding operates. Currently, we have an events-based system. This system is unsuitable on so many levels. For those who don't know, clubs, for the primary means of funding, have to apply to the Student Programming Funding Board. But this funding board only offers funding related to specific individual events. This means that, number one, clubs who want to apply for funding are only incentivized to interact with their student government on a single basis, once a quarter, maybe, at best. But for the smaller clubs, this is the second issue, they feel no incentive whatsoever to even engage in their government. They have no access to that support network because they don't have the infrastructure to go through that labyrinth to acquire that funding. By transitioning our funding system to a line item system, we can allow for more clubs to have the funding that they need to feel supported. And we can create a stable system, an incentive for these clubs to interact with their student government. Thank you.
Alondra, same question.
So to reform ASUCI, we should start at the head, which is through the Executive Cabinet. As chair of the Executive Cabinet, I will not only encourage and basically mandate my fellow executives to collaborate with one another to maximize our efficiency and maximize our advocacy efforts, but also to maximize our reach on campus. For example, through my office, I will collaborate with the IVP in reaching out to RCOs and ensuring that their needs are being met through ASUCI, which I've already began working on as an at-large senator, and as Senate Pro Temp, I've been reaching out to RCOs and getting their concerns and their feedback. And one of the main feedbacks that we received was that that was the first time an RCO had been reached out to by ASUCI. I want to continue this work and continue reaching out to more RCOs to expand our reach in order to get their needs met and increase our advocacy efforts. Thank you.
May I have a rebuttal? Or should
Candidates all help?
When it comes to reforms for ACCI, I would focus on three main focus areas. one is awareness as well. And I think a lot of students don't necessarily know what ASUCI is or how we operate. And so I would make sure to work with the executive cabinet and encourage collaboration with not only within ASUCI executive offices, as well as ASUCI with other departments. I would encourage the executive cabinet to have frequent meetings with departments, do outreach to those members that they serve. I would also work to shift the office of the president to a more policy-focused office. And finally, on the topic of SPFB, I did want to say that there are policies in place that do restrict how clubs can use their funding. And there are policies that we need to respect as well. It all comes down to how student fees are being spent. And again, that is something we need to respect. But that's not to say we can't help clubs through the process to make sure that they are submitting applications that are perfect and that may not get rejected.
Time is elapsed.
Thank you.
May I have a rebuttal?
You have a 30-second rebuttal.
Wonderful. I would like to address a couple of points. So I'm aware, Alondra, that you and your Senate have been reaching out to these RCOs, but it's emails that you are sending. Nothing fundamentally about the relationship that RCOs have with the government is being changed. This kind of advocacy, this kind of representation is simply not sustainable. You're not changing the relationship. You're not creating any incentive or any desire for RCOs to collaborate with ASUCI. By changing the fundamental funding structure, we can create a quotidian
Your time is elapsed.
Yes, thank you.
May I offer clarification?
15 seconds.
So it wasn't only just emails, but we actually had reached out to the RCO specifically asking for meetings, one-on-one meetings with RCO heads in order to get their direct feedback on ASUCI, and we got that. And now I want to expand that work through this new position as ASUCI president. Thank you.
May I offer a rebuttal?
You've already used your one rebuttal per question.
Wonderful.
Would the other two candidates like to offer a rebuttal or,
May I offer a rebuttal?
of course, 30 seconds?
So the Office of the President should be focusing on policy-informed advocacy. The collaboration through the Executive Cabinet is already naturally doing that to maximize advocacy with administration. In regards to reaching out to RCOs, RCOs are the heart of our campus. They and regular students who may not be affiliated with RCOs as well due to a variety of reasons. That being said, it's vital that the Executive Cabinet collaborates in reaching out to these organizations. Thank you.
Sahil, would you like to offer a rebuttal or a clarification?
No, thank you.
At this time,
May I offer clarification?
because you were not addressed in Alondra's rebuttal, you may not offer a clarification at this time. Then with that,
Thank you for your responses, candidates. We are now reaching the end of our scheduled program. So with that, we will have 1 minute, 30-second closing statements from each candidate, starting with Alondra.
So as you've heard today, I will focus my office next year, if elected, on policy. Understanding policy is the key to make actual feasible change here on campus. You have to use policy. You have to start with legislation, which is something that I've already begun the last 2 years as at-large senator. Without a legislation, you don't have merit in your arguments with administration. That being said, I want to build on this platform that I've already built through the last 2 years of my term as at-large senator in ASUCI. Using this past experience, I will expand on ensuring that student needs are being met and that students are being prioritized. Because at the end of the day, we are serving you, you are not serving us. We need to advocate directly for your needs, and in doing so, it's through outreach, it's through collaboration, and it's through gaining feedback directly from the students. Next week, you guys will have a decision to make. If you vote for me, through me and my Slate and Eater Pact, we will be focusing primarily on progress advocacy and campus transparency, and through all of our collaboration, we will be able to get work done efficiently and effectively on our campus. Thank you.
Thank you for your closing statement. We will now have a 1 minute, 30-second opening statement from Sahil.
So tonight you've heard a lot. Ideas, promises, visions for the future. You've heard about my plans to support student clubs, to enhance the resources that exist on campus, my plans to elevate marginalized voices. But now you have a choice to make. You have a choice for who will not only represent you, but will lead for you. Who understands the office of the president best, who's been in the room, who's done the work, and knows what it takes to turn goals into action. I'm not running just to hold this title. I'm running because I've lived the struggles that students face, and I've spent my time in ASUCI working to ease some of those burdens. I've shown up for mental health, for student orgs, for first-generation students, and I will continue to show up as your president. If you're looking for a leader who's prepared, who's proven, and who's driven by a genuine care and love for this campus and students, then I ask for your support. And if there's anything I said that you resonated with, chances are you would also resonate with the members of my slate called Ant Leaders. So, for one final time, my name is Sahil Chakuri, and I ask for your vote for ASUCI President. Thank you.
Thank you for your closing statement. We will now have a 1-minute 30-second closing statement from Austin.
I'd like to congratulate my opponents for their stellar debate performances. I appreciate all of you in the audience and online for taking the time this evening to hear me and my opponent's vision for student government. ASUCI should be our first line of defense between us and the administration. It should be our advocate, our spokesperson, and our representative. But for many of us, all we've ever known is a government that has promised and failed to deliver. The shortcomings of our government bleed into every problem that we face as students. Because representation has been depleted, financial aid delays continued unabated. Because no one was prepared to stand up for us, the Office of Transportation continues to take advantage of students. And because we have been complacent and weak in our voices, the administration can afford to ignore our demands. If elected as your next student body president, I plan to meaningfully address the issues that students are facing, whether it be by demanding more resources to address financial aid delays, negotiating cheaper parking options for students and commuters, or increasing the support that we provide to student-led organizations. I believe that the job of our government must be more than just symbolic. There are many in this room who believe that it is fruitless to even try, that change for our school is out of our reach. But I'm here to tell you that belief is wrong. I'm here to tell you that change is possible, and it starts with us. Advocacy and representation are more than just slogans, but real goals to achieve. I'm asking for your support this April 14th. It would be an honor to serve as your president. Thank you.
Thank you for your closing statements, candidates. This concludes the ASUCI presidential debate. At this time, we would like all of our candidates who debated today to come up to the stage for one final farewell. So if our candidate for internal vice president would also like to come up to the stage. Candidates, please feel free to provide the audience with a brief 10-second farewell, starting with Austin, moving down the row.
My name is Austin Pierce. I'm a third-year political science student. I ask for your vote this April 14th. Thank you.
Hi everyone, my name is Sahil. Thank you so much for coming out tonight, and I really hope to receive your vote for ASUCI President next week. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Alondra Arevalo. Thank you so much for coming out tonight, and I hope to receive your vote.
Hi everyone, I'm Harshvardhan Rathore. Vote for me, vote for change, vote for advocacy. Thank you.
With that, please give our candidates one final warm round of applause as they exit the stage. With that, the 2025 ASUCI presidential and internal vice presidential debates come to a close. This event is our final event of the week. Recordings of all of our debates and forums can be found on both the ASUCI YouTube channel and the New University YouTube channel. As a reminder, voting will officially begin on the elections website, elections.uci.edu, next Monday, April 14th at 9 a.m. and end Friday, April 18th at 5 p.m. All undergraduate students, regardless of year, major, immigration status, etc., are entitled to vote in these elections. If you have any questions or concerns regarding these elections, please feel free to reach out to our team at elections@asuci.uci.edu. On behalf of the Elections Commission, ASUCI, and New University, we hope you will engage with our student government and the future of our university by voting for candidates who reflect your values, your hopes, and your aspirations. Thank you for watching. See you on the election trail. Good night, everybody.